Okay, so hello. I thought I'd do something a little bit different and I've got just like a rainbow light on because I was just like, why not? Let's do it. So hello, welcome to this video. I haven't filmed the past like week, I don't think, and this is coming into the 2D walk cycle brief, and this is like now the last week. It's Tuesday, so I'll get a little bit in there. I wasn't sure exactly what my plan was, but I think I was just trying to get so much other stuff done that I was like, I'll just pick a day next week and just film everything then, because it's a lot of just working in TV Paint and I don't have TV Paint at home. So obviously you'll see final stuff and all the rest of it. I think I did film. It's on my phone, which is recording right now, so I've got no idea where it is, but like, or if I did, but I'm pretty sure I filmed what I did in the first week, so I'll probably check that up just over here, whatever. It's very kind of like the initial getting in there. There's still a lot of cleanup and sorting out volumes and everything, but I think with what I did today, which is mostly like adding the arms in and starting to get that motion sorted, I think I have both arms like pretty much in the motion they need to be. Now it's like fixing the volumes and getting an actual proper one done. I don't necessarily think that this brief is like super hard. I think it's just one of those things where like it's just the amount of frames you need to do and then keeping the proportions all the same and that kind of thing. It's just like work to be honest. I think I was getting a little confused with the arms, like in terms of like, obviously for the way that they set it, it's like there are certain positions where there's only like 2 frames in between the 2 like keyframes of where the arm is supposed to be, so it goes very fast, and then it's kind of like matching each one up to the arm, the legs, and then also doing other stuff. Like it was just kind of like figuring it out, and then I have it down now, so it's pretty much just like working on it until it's done. And I'm not too worried about that. I need to also go fix the bouncing ball, something I'm hoping to do this week. I will see. I plan on trying to get all of the stuff, at least on Friday, kind of exported so that I have each thing ready for the video that I'll need to make. So I have that set ready to go. Today I'm gonna go back in to the studio at like 5 and just go work for like 3 hours and try and get the body, like all the body proportions and everything like set in stone, or well, at least like the main body. So that'd be like the legs, the main body, head and everything, and then the arms separately. I'm gonna see if I can't get onto the arms and start getting those like keyframes really set in stone, and then I can really kind of like start looking at adding more. But if I get like the keyframes done, hopefully it's just like, okay, now I just need to do all the in-betweens, and then that's hopefully me done, and then possibly adding a little bit like bobble to the head and everything. But it's still a bit of work. Like it's not something where like, I know what I need to do, so it's not like super stressful or anything. I also did my essay. I think that's partially why I didn't film as well. It's not that I did my full essay. I basically chose what I was gonna do for my essay. So I've chosen 3 paintings, well not paintings, paintings. I chose 3 like movie poster things from the same artist, and I've gone about like 700 and something words, I think. That's just like my general notes down. So I'm pretty much like, okay, this is pretty good, because I haven't even written about the artist yet. I haven't even written about like anything to do with the actual like film, because they're movie posters, other than the general what actually has a proper connection to the actual like thing. By that I mean in terms of like, for example, with like I chose one of them was the Lion King, and the like obviously the lion's on like Proud Rock and all the other animals are below it, and then there's a lion in the sky. The kind of the idea of like, okay, the lion is kind of like ruling, it's kind of like above the rest of the animals, it's more important in a way. So that kind of thing, where it's like, and that also ties into the movie because like they do actually like rule, I suppose. I don't quite know what other terminology to use. There's probably different like ones, but I can't think right now. But I have those 3 sorted, and I'm planning this Thursday to pretty much try and get a kind of first draft knocked out if I can, and then that means maybe Saturday or Sunday I'll try, and if I don't do it on Thursday, Saturday or Sunday I'll try and get one, probably Sunday, because I might go into studio on Saturday if I desperately need to, but I don't think I will. Okay, so basically for this week I need to do some more drawing in terms of like, I need to get the arm swing bit done, because I forgot I hadn't actually done that bit yet. But for this one, ignore Norman at the top. Ooh, it's now pretty different colors. if you can read it, if you dare, or can with all the glowing lights. But yeah, basically it was just like looking at the keyframes, what each one means, like the head is down if it says down, the head is up if it says up, all the rest of it. And then I think I looked at like the leg in terms of like the arcs and stuff, and then a little bit the arm. And then I need to do like the key poses of the arm, and then how many frames are in between each, you know, of those and everything like that. So I think once I do that though, that's pretty much all the notes I'm going to take for this one. I think I could maybe go a little bit more in depth. I might actually create, because obviously like there's the figure that I just kind of showed, but it's more like kind of, it's less stickman-y than the one that we're using. It's like a bit thicker, and I'm kind of tempted to do a pass of that, so like try and basically make that into a walk cycle, and then kind of just to get a better sense of it, because I feel like with the skeleton it's like you can kind of get lost in like where the arms are and everything, but when there's actually like a thickness, not necessarily to the lines but to the body, it kind of is a little bit easier to see, oh, this leg is in front of this, and then, you know, I think it might be a little bit easier for me to get it. And you know, I think with the like final kind of presentation, I think part of it is just like showing that you are thinking about it and you are not just like researching it, but also just kind of like getting understanding for it kind of thing. So I plan on doing that, but I am thinking, but one good thing I would say is that with the actual file in terms of what we're using, or for our like actual thing, walk cycle slap thing, we have to use TV Paint, because we have to put up TV Paint files so they can go into the file and like look at it, which I totally understand, but I'm kind of glad that like if we want to do research or we want to do like little animations or whatever, we can do them on like any program. It doesn't have to be TV Paint. Obviously it would be good to use TV Paint mostly just to get like used to it, but I think also it's like I don't have TV Paint right now. My plan is I think I'm gonna get it after Christmas, but like in January before semester 2 begins, and then once that happens I'm thinking of getting an like either an XP pen or Hunan or whatever, screen tablet, mostly because I prefer using screen tablets, and while there are screen tablets in Djcad, the issue is the fact that like the buildings are not open all the time, which I completely understand. It's not something I'm saying that they have to be open, but they're completely not open on Sundays. I tend to work more at night, which is why partially why I go in at 5. There tends to be less people in, and so that means there tends to be more room and stuff like that, so it's a little bit easier to grab one, and there's not going to be any classes on as well, so that kind of also helps. And I was just kind of thinking, I was like, because what I end up doing is I will go in for my lecture or kind of tutorial or whatever, like it's a mix of different things, for feedback mostly, to be fair. I go in for feedback, and then I would basically come straight back out, have lunch, which I still need to have lunch, but I have lunch, maybe do something, and then get ready to go back in at 5 o'clock to work for a few hours. And I'm like, I could come back, eat lunch, maybe rest for a lesser amount of time or something, and then get working again, and that means like I'm not wasting like 3 or 4 hours not really doing much. Not to say that I don't do anything, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, part of me is just a bit like I'd prefer to be able to do it a bit quicker, and I think having a screen tablet would be best for that. I don't know like what kind of size to get. I need to actually like look at them properly. I know a few people have like the XP Pen 13-inch, I think, which is, I never know if it's like, I need to check, because I never know if the 13 refers to the overall size or if it's the size of the screen, and then it's another like 2 inches for like all the buttons on one side, the buttons on both sides, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I don't quite know exactly what it's referring to. I don't think I need something like a super big screen. Like I will say like this like iPad is pretty much like a size that I'm very happy working on. Like I'm never like, oh, I wish I had more room. So I think I could do something like fairly small. Obviously, you know, I'll need to have a look at it. I know it is like, it's not no money at all, but also at the same time that's why I'm kind of like, Christmas? Maybe get a few funeral alarms or whatever, but like I'm just thinking, because like I don't know, because part of me is like, I do understand they do want us like on campus, but also at the same time it's one of those things where like if the equipment was more readily available. If it was something where we had our like own desk with a computer and stuff like that, then I probably would come in a lot more. But I find, well, not that I'm not coming in, but I feel like I would come in earlier on and, you know, spend more of the day there rather than coming in at night like a gremlin. But yeah, I also think just like having it for the future would be good. Oh, that was another thing. So the thing about it was like, because I was thinking about what thingy to use, and I was like, oh, I've heard a lot about XP pens and like they're apparently pretty good. I know a few people got them over summer. I know that the drivers on the Macs in Djcad don't take them, they only have Wacom. I do have my like intros tablet, but I can work in it, but I also find it slightly more difficult. I prefer to have like, I don't mind doing like sketches and stuff like that, but I don't like doing neater line work. I think mostly because I've kind of been spoiled now. I'm so used to my iPad and having like a screen, and then also because there's XP Pen tablets, I'm like, oh great, I can just go on and do that and that's fine. It's not to say I can't work on it, it's just I find it more difficult. I find myself like being more sketchy with it and less kind of precise, particularly for something like the skeleton that we're doing for this brief. It's like I kind of need to be a little bit more precise when it comes to it. But yeah, anyway, I looked up the Wacom stuff because I was like, oh, maybe there's like a Wacom tablet that has like a screen, and I think it's literally just Cintiqs. I think that you either have like a non-screen Wacom tablet or you get a Cintiq. Because I didn't really see anything else. The only other ones were by other brands, which obviously do not go with a Wacom driver. So it kind of means that I don't know, part of me is like, I'm not gonna get a bloody Cintiq. And also, Cintiqs are pretty much like the big XP pens in there, so it's a monitor on its own basically. So it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think that if I had like I don't know, again, it's one of those things where it's like if in a perfect world it would be like we'd have our own either like PC or Mac, or have the option where we could have a PC Mac or a big XP Pen tablet, or we could be able to use whatever driver on like our own like PC. We could download whatever driver that we needed, which would be fantastic. But I also kind of understand why they don't do that, and I do understand that part of the reason why, you know, again, like mostly just computers and stuff like that, just it's a lot of different things, and a lot of it just comes down to money. A lot of it just comes down to the universe saying give you more. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, it works for what it works for, but I think for me, I think I might do better if I had that. I feel a little bit bad because they were talking about having more people on campus, and I do know that one of the things about the like things like XP Pen tablets and stuff like that is like if no one uses them, then it gets very like, oh well, why do you have them then? We'll just give them to this person or something, like it, or this department. And it's like, no, we do use them, we just don't use them every single day, or like, you know, maybe you're not around to see us use them. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking possibly getting for Christmas this year and doing, because I think also just like as well for like these videos and stuff, it'd be cool to be actually show stuff. But I feel it, I forget when I'm in because I just like go into work and I'm like, okay, go, and I can't really, yeah, I don't know, I find it awkward to like film stuff, particularly when there's like more than like one or two people in there, which as of recently there's been a lot more people in. I think it's because it's coming to the end of the semester and more people are like doing stuff. So aim is going to be to, yeah, go and work on it. And then I think, oh yes, I forgot to say, tomorrow there is going to be the first meeting of the Animation Society and the Djcad stuff. So I don't know about the Djcad stuff in terms of like what's happening with all that. I know that like, from what I remember, because I talked to someone who was like going through the paperwork of kind of like putting up the society, and he was talking about how they were going to be transferring it over to someone, like a different group of people to like actually run it. So I don't quite know what's working in terms of that, but it's in the animation studio, so the plan is I'm just going to go there tomorrow, go to the meeting, see what's up. I think that with the Djcad stuff, it's like, I don't know, I just have so many thoughts and so many like things that I'd like, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we can get stuff sorted, or stuff can get sorted for like the next few years, because like I kind of just, if we have this society running it, then I think hopefully that'll make things smoother, but it's difficult to say, particularly because I was under the impression that it was like the third years running it previously, which I think it was pre-pandemic, but I don't know a ton about how it usually went down. I know it was to pay for like some stuff, but I'm not sure. It was not the super clear cut, you know what I mean, as to how everything was run. So today I wore like my, there's like a lot of Killstar stuff. I wore my pink boots. I wore these pink boots with this, and my god, these, I love them so much, but they're so painful. They just hate me. Obviously this moon necklace could go with it, but to be honest, I'm thinking with this fit, maybe maybe this little like cat one that I have would have been better. Like maybe looked a little bit nicer because it still has like pink on it. It's so cute. I wish I'd gotten maybe a couple of different ones of this, because there was like a few pens that had this, and I think one of them had like blue and stuff like that. I also have like a Mount Fuji one. On the actual pen it came from, which actually has a cute as well. You can kind of see it vaguely with all the blinking, well not blinking light, but changing light. But I have this Mount Fuji one, which I really want to put on something, like put on another choker, because I think it's fun. But I've yet to do that. Anyway, so I wear this choker. I didn't wear this choker actually today because I was like kind of rushing out the door, but I still wore like the fishnets, and then I wore this, which is like a kind of like sailor uniform sort of thing, which I really like. I think it goes so well with the skirt as well, and I wear like the white tights, so I think all kind of like fit together really nicely. The thing about it is like I would love to like put on makeup and go in with makeup, but the problem is just the fact that like it's in the morning, like it's 9:30, which to be fair it's not like full on 9 in the morning, but I'm also only in for like 2 hours a lot of the time, maybe 2.5, and that's it. And it's like I can't be bothered like putting on makeup for like a little amount of time if it's that early in the morning. My plan is still to like you know, do some for tomorrow, and then, you know, obviously for the meeting, but not sure about how that's all gonna go. Hopefully the meeting will be good, and I don't know what I'm gonna wear to that, but you'll probably see me tomorrow when I am wearing set makeup or whatever, because I was talking about makeup for some reason. But yeah, so far it's been good though. I'm not gonna lie, it's not been like too difficult. It's just like a lot of work to get there, and yes, I need to also fill out, I think there's like some surveys going around, so I need to fill those out as well. So I will see you guys in the next bit. See ya. Okay, hello. So I basically went in today and we had a meeting, which was for, it's Wednesday by the way, a meeting for the Animation Society and the Djcad. And it was a lot more about Djcad, to be honest, than the Animation Society. To be fair, I thought there was going to be a good few more people there, but I think because right now there's a big deadlines happening and it's really coming into like crunch time for a bunch of people, particularly the third years. So I think a lot of people who would have been there if this had been like earlier on, it would have, you know, probably had way more people into it and everything. But it was mostly us second years and 1 third year, and then the fourth years who were doing like the presentation, I suppose, of like what they had done and everything. And we could write our names on like a list on the wall of like what we could do. I put myself down for like one role in the Animation Society. I might go down and put my name into another one, but I'm not sure as of right now, because I'm kind of like, I want to do stuff for Djcad, but I've also got a lot of my own stuff to sort out, and hopefully if I can get a lot of my own stuff to sort out, maybe next year I can go for a higher position. But then also at the same time, I don't know how societies work. I don't quite know if it's a case of like each year it changes or each year it pretty much stays the same. If you get this position, then you can pretty much have it, as long as you don't like abandon it or whatever, then you have that position. So it's like, I don't really know. I think it's one of those things where I just don't know that much about societies and stuff, so I am kind of like, I don't know. I might put my name down for a couple more. I do want to have some sort of role on the committee, but also at the same time, part of me is like, I think I'd prefer some sort of role on the kind of organization kind of thing of Djcad. And so I think the main kind of thing about Djcad right now is like it involves a bunch of other societies as well. I believe originally it was just animation students in Justhea, as far as I'm aware, particularly from how the people that I've talked to, like how they responded to it. And because of the fact that the way this is all happening, it's kind of like I don't know, like thinking back to like pre-pandemic times, like there seemed to be like a fairly rigid timeline of how everything went, and it seemed to work a lot better. And I think there's kind of maybe this thing where like maybe it's a case of, because there's so many societies involved now and because they all need to be organized, it's a little, I don't know, like I don't know how everything's like projected to run and how it kind of compares to like the past of how it was run as well, because I don't know how like a theme is picked. I don't know how this is picked, or like, you know, the theme is picked and then the idea for like how things go or whatever is done, and it's a little one of those things where like I can understand it in terms of like why like this society takes a role of like this stuff and why this society would take a role of this thing, but I just don't quite know how like the general themes and stuff are run, like who decides that, because originally it was, you know, run by animation students and like pretty much done by just I believe like mainly just animation students. So I feel like at that point it's like you could have a very specific team doing it, and then also if you wanted to like have people pick their own themes or whatever, or like pitch themes, then that would probably be way easier than having like a bunch of societies. Like, do they get to pitch themes? Is it the animation society that decides that? Is it? It's a good few questions. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't really ask that because it was mostly just them like talking very generally in terms, because I think they're having a meeting with a guy who like helps run it at Djcad. But again, it's one of those things where like, because I don't really have much of an idea on this stuff, it's difficult for me to be like, oh, I'd like to do this thing or I want to do this thing, because it is just like we don't have a ton of information. Like they gave us all the information that they could, but I think it is just something where, thinking back to pre-pandemic, like at this point in time, the like mascot competition would have been open for like 2 weeks. The applications probably would have been up for like a week, like for stalls and stuff. So it's kind of one of those things where part of me is a bit like, I don't know, I feel like so much of this stuff, like some of that stuff, it's like it kind of should be happening a lot earlier on in the semester, so it makes it easier for further down the line to really be able to do it. Because I think last year apparently they did it in like 2 months, and I was sitting there like, now that I think about it, that's probably right, because they would have had to wait until people were actually back in the semester. And it's like, I think again, it's just one of those things where I think that there's just some stuff that could be shifted further out to start the wheels turning earlier, so it means that they have more time, because I think that at the end of the day, like the more time the better. And it just, again, it kind of feels so last minute a little bit sometimes, when it's like you have to remember some of these other cons, they run from literally like a week after they're done, like their applications are open and they're getting people like stalls booked and everything like that. And fair enough, some of them it's like they just have to book the hall again, and a lot of people, you know, it might be a case of they have a deal with the hall or whatever. But to be perfectly fair, with something like Djcad, it's, I feel like a little bit iffier, because it is something where you're using university buildings, and while we have Bonner Hall, it's like I don't really know of another building that's going to be able to hold that capacity on that day in terms of having like stalls and stuff like that. Again, I don't know every single building, but it is also one of those things where like, I don't know, I just have like so many like, okay, well, how is this gonna do, how is this gonna do? And then also, you know, again, it's just I think the thing about it for me is like I put my name down for like one role in terms of what it is, because it was just like general things. So like I put mine for like social media, because I was like, okay, that's pretty much just going to be at the beginning of stuff, and I also have opinions. Not saying that I have opinions, but in terms of like, oh my god, I was sorry, spewing my political views on there, like, no. It's one of those things where I think that it is something where it's like, I think we need to be asking people what they want to see. We need to be asking, you know, other conventions, like stuff about how they run and all the rest of it, and also like security stuff as well. We need to also be like generally being more communicative, because I think that at the end of the day, a convention like Djcad, it's not necessarily, you know, at the end of the day, the less communicative you are from the year before, it can mean it's a little iffy. And I know some artists that are kind of like, you know, like with Djcad, it's like they still want to go to it and still want to stall at it, but it is something where they wish that it was more communication. One of the biggest issues that I have seen is in terms of these stalls, the application of stalls, in terms of where you go, you're kind of like, I'll call it a stall map because I don't quite know what the name is going to be, but a map of where like each stall is and where you are in that stall, like, and it'll just show everyone's stuff, right? And that, I think pre-pandemic and pre the year that I sold it, because that's when they added Bonner Hall, and then there was a whole thing with that, it was that they would release that in January. And to be honest, I feel like if you have something like a proper setup of like a map basically already of where your stalls can be, like that's should be a very simple process of just like adding the names to it. And you can easily send out an email to each person and just say, here's this stuff, like please do not share it until we might send you another one. This is a preliminary one. It is just to see if everyone is completely okay with their stalls. If there's any issues, bear in mind that if you have like a certain stall that needs power or whatever, then you might be in a very specific spot, like that sort of stuff. Like generally just like having that communication. And then on top of that, I think social media needs to have an FQA, because I think it is something where like that's a very it's not necessarily a simple thing to like, it's going to take time to create, but also at the same time it's a very simple like basic thing to have that can also help try and avoid questions and stuff like that in terms of very basic ones. And I think it would also just in general help with people's navigation of stuff and all the rest of it. But yeah, I chose social media because I think it's something where like it's the pre-stuff, because there was stuff like stalls. They had stuff for stalls, and we weren't sure whether it meant like the stall that is usually run on Djcad by the Djcad people basically. And they said no, just if you want like a stall and stuff, then we can contact you about it. So I just put my name and own stall, because I definitely want my own stall. I'm going to do that. But it's also one of those things where it's just like, I don't know. I think it's just something where like I'm hoping that being a part of that team, I can hopefully try and get the ball rolling in terms of getting stuff a little bit back towards that pre-pandemic timeline. Because I think that the issue we have right now is like, fair enough, we've got it seems like we have way more people working on it, but I think that there's just this problem of like, but the timeline is then shortened a bunch, and this year's timeline is gonna maybe be a month, and not even a month I don't think, because they're gonna have updates towards the end of November, which is fine, obviously. Better late than never. But that's updates for us, people running it, not updates for... It might be an update, like an, oh, it's going to run on this day, but I don't know how much it's going to be other stuff and all the rest of it, like... And I think it is something where, like, if we can have these kinds of meetings towards the start of the semester, rather than literally a few weeks before the end of the semester, then hopefully it means that we can get stuff rolling and stuff organized a lot better. I think maybe also just this year, because previous years we didn't have an animation society, it was purely just animation students doing it. And so I think that Djcad wants a society to do it. I do understand their reasoning, and it was like, I do understand their reasoning a bit better. I think it had mostly to do with things like the issue of like, because it was a bunch of individuals, there's a whole bunch of like tax stuff that needs to go on when money was being like given to these people for working on the day and everything like that, and also their work behind the scenes and all the rest of it. And basically the issue is just the fact that like when it had so many people doing it, it was kind of a bit of a nightmare, whereas if it's a society, then it can be funneled into that society, and from there stuff can happen. And also they kind of want stuff to be in the society for things like, oh, I can't remember what it was, but it was like stuff for the society to specifically be able to do stuff, which I don't think is a bad idea at all. But yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I do probably think that they do want to have these meetings earlier on in the semester. I think maybe just because the Animation Society needed organized first in order to be able to start doing stuff. I think that it meant that stuff was kind of held behind. I don't necessarily think that like it was necessarily anyone's fault. I think it was just because of the way things were done. The wheels weren't able to start turning until the semester started, and then at that point there was still a little bit to go before they could actually like have meetings and stuff like that about this stuff. But I'm excited, but I'm also cautiously excited. I'm kind of like, okay, because I was thinking, right, basically, as I was saying, previous one I think was getting an XP pen or something for Christmas. I think that's definitely going to be the plan now. I think that I don't really like the fact that when I come back from class, I can have lunch and I can have a wee sit down, and then I've got a few hours until I go back into studio. But I find myself just not really doing anything, because I'm like, oh, you kind of sit around and you're waiting to go into studio. So I think it's one of those things where like, I think I'd prefer to have something here so I could work on it here and not have to worry about that. Also, I don't have to then wait until like 8:30 before the thing closes to then come back and then go eat something. So it's one of those things where I think that also on top of that now, if I want to do stuff for Dcon, my own shit for Dcon, and then on top of that, possibly Animation Society stuff, it's part of me is just a bit like, I feel like it's coming to a point where I'm like, nah, I need to kind of prepare myself, get my own stuff sorted to be able to do uni work here, rather than having to go in constantly. Particularly because this like vlog cycle is actually taking like a really long time to do. Probably because I want to like get it done right and get it nice, but it is also one of those things where it's just like getting it done, oh my god. But I was originally planning on doing my essay tomorrow, but I don't think that's how it's going to shape out. I'm going to do it on Sunday instead, because I know that I have got nothing on Sunday. My parents are coming, I think, tomorrow afternoon, and we're gonna go have a meal or something. And then my plan is I'll probably come back here, quickly get whatever else organized, depending on the time, and then head back into studio and hopefully get my like arm completed, and hopefully the other arm, but I'm not too sure about that one. But if I can get this one arm completed and a few other couple of smaller things changed, get that seen on Friday morning for class, and then probably come back in to work for a few hours in the Friday afternoon, hopefully get it finished off. And then on Saturday I'm just gonna have like a rest day, probably to tidy up and organize my shit. That's like another thing I need to do, a lot of tidying, a lot of organizing, getting stuff sorted, so then when it comes to Sunday I don't have anything to like procrastinate in order to not do like my essay and hopefully get a first draft of that essay kind of rolling. And then for Monday, if I'm still not finished with do the life drawing obviously, and then if I'm still not finished with my like walk cycle, I can quickly do some of that before the deadline on the end of Monday. So yeah, I think it's mostly it. I've kind of rambled on a lot about like decon and stuff like that, but it is something where it's like I do have passion for it. I love decon, but it's also one of those things where like there's just some stuff that I'm kind of more nervous about, mainly because I feel like we have a much kind of shorter time to do stuff in, and I don't quite know how that normally like runs, if it's way better because like it's split up way more, whether it's something where actually no, it's not that split up at all and it's still a lot on animation, and again I have no clue. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wore all my Care Bear today. I wore my Care Bear tights and just my cat shoes, to be honest, from Killstar, because they're like simple. It was absolutely bucketing it down when I left for animation, or left the studio. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, which will hopefully be kind of me maybe finished up my stuff, and yeah, see ya. Anyway, so hello. I'll get to the, I suppose, end of this video. It's a little bit into the next brief, but I was working so hard in getting this animation done that it is just like, oh my god. So I'll just put the little clip of it that I did for my Instagram story, which I'm trying to post a lot more on my Instagram in terms of like what I'm doing and everything. So if you want to see what I'm doing in terms of day and all the rest of it, and also like a lot of stuff in general that I just don't do like full posts for, they're on my Instagram story. So I recommend following that if you want to see more about that sort of stuff. So yeah, I finished off. I wasn't sure if I was gonna have enough time to do it, but I did it, and I think it looks pretty good. Could I work on it more? Yes. I think the only issues there's been like some miscommunication with certain things and just like general stuff that is kind of like not necessarily anyone's fault, which I think is the issue, is like it's not really the real response of anyone's doing that's actually like, oh, you could have done this better, or, you know, this should be done this way. It's like we have these circumstances around it, which pretty much means that like it's difficult for everyone because of the way everything is right now, which hopefully should be an issue next semester, I'm hoping. And I think next semester is going to be a lot more on the creative side. I think right now it's just so on the like mechanic side and like the here's how to use this thing, here's how to do that thing, which I do understand, but I think it's also like a lot of us are kind of like, can we do something cool now? But yeah, I got that finished on Monday, sent that in, or yesterday I suppose, sent that in, and then now we have to wait and see if we will get reviews. We're so behind on the reviews right now, I'm not sure we're going to get one, which is kind of unfortunate. I thought for a second there was something there was like bent out and I was so confused, and I think that's maybe just the shape of it. But anyway, pretty much there's only a few things I need to do. There's some stuff that would be research that I would have done first, but it kind of slipped my mind, and also with the essay kind of going on, I kind of have a good bit through with the essay now. I've got like 1,300 words, and that's with 2 points for each image, and the way that they talked about the way we should do it would be like 3 points per image basically. And so that means I've still got plenty of room to move. The only issue is I'm not sure if I need to find points that I can write more about. So I think I need to go have a quick skim through the example essays and kind of like see what they talked about. But I have a much more solid idea of like everything that's going into it. So I'm pretty set with the essay. I'm gonna work on it more this week, and hopefully get like the first like full draft of it done this week, and then that means I can get that checked over and everything. But the plan is I'm going to finish off that video here. In terms of overall the brief, in terms of everything that we did there, I think it was fine. It definitely is just something where it's like I understood a lot about it. I would say the model, like the actual walking, the skeleton, was a little trickier to use. I think partially because there was like with the arms in between the joints, they are just like one line, and particularly with the hip joint, I think I understood it better because a lot of these examples have like flesh on the bones, basically. They're not just this skeletal structure. So I think that's why I was kind of getting confused, particularly with the hip, and then it didn't really help that I was getting some conflicting information. So luckily it's been sorted out and I've gotten it done, and hopefully it's right. I would say though that if the approach to this project, I think that what I'm seeing as like a pattern is they don't quite give you everything to start, or they want to go over the specific information in like a survey document, which is fine for some stuff, but I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that it's like, I think they should do the tutorial first, to be honest. But there's also the issue of the fact that there's not a media lab big enough for us to have all to be in there at the same time. They're only scheduled with us for a certain amount of time, and then on top of that there's no TV paint in the actual lecture theaters, which means that they can't just show us it, at least all together, so they have more time to show us it. So it's kind of like these problems, but then they're kind of exacerbated by the fact that this isn't available or that's an issue. It's kind of ended up in a catch-22 situation where they can either have everyone in the same room and that means a longer time for it, but they can't actually show us the material. Well, they can only show us the material in the sway documents that we can access. They can't show us them doing it on TV paint. Whereas if we're in the media lab, not everyone can fit in it, which means our time is halved. So it's at this point, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's more of an annoyance, but I think that the issues as well with just like the information and stuff being given to us that was useful, but very, very late in the process, it's not the best. I'm hoping that's an issue that can be sorted out for next year's. It's something that, you know, as a student rep, I will be raising it for the next meeting that we're having, which I think is going to be next semester, but I don't know when in next semester is going to be. I hope that it's not going to be like last year where we didn't have a student rep meeting at the end, which felt really weird because I was like, there's usually a good chunk of time after the student rep meeting before the end of the year, and it's like, I think there needs to be one at the end of the year so then we can fully be able to go, okay, here's where the issues that a lot of people were seeing through the year for this thing in this last part of the year. Like, I don't know, I feel like that's an important thing that I'll raise next time as well. I'll just ask to make sure that we do get a meeting, because I think it is something where like, it's been 3 weeks I think since our last meeting, and I already have a few issues that is like, these things kind of need to be sorted. It's also partially the fact that we're kind of coming to the end of this semester, so we can kind of look back on the full semester and not just have done like 2.5 projects at that point. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's it for this project. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, it's one of those things where like I wish I had kind of a bit more to show, but I need to get the actual like files and stuff sorted, and you will be seeing it in like a week or two anyway, so it's kind of one of those things where like, I don't know, it's just juggling a bunch of stuff. And I think that next time after Christmas I will be getting TV paint, so I'm hoping it means I can just film stuff as I go a little bit easier, because I feel really awkward filming stuff when I'm like in a media lab and stuff like that. So, and also I can talk over it then, and I don't have to add a voiceover later and all the rest of it. So yeah, anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.